Welcome to the Divorce to Dynamite podcast. I'm Michelle O'Neill. Today my guest is Guy Rodgers. Guy is a financial planner and a recovering divorce lawyer. We might say retired, but those of us who know will say recovering. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I am excited you're here. I really, we were talking off camera, and then we were like, wait a minute, we need to be saying all this on the show. So tell me about how you transitioned from being a very successful, very well-known divorce lawyer to being a financial planner, financial consultant.
So, journey was long, but about 15 years into my practice, I was board certified in family law, like you said. I had a general practice, and I loved the law. I love litigation. I love going to court. I didn't like some of the other things, right? But and so in my church, I was involved with the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University, and so I became much more knowledgeable about the financial side of life. You know, going through law school, I was just trying to learn the law, right?
They don't teach us finances in law school.
They don't. And so, walked out of law school with a lot of debt. And I was blessed to have some scholarships, but I walked away still with a lot of debt. And so I was trying to get through that. And I spent years as a prosecutor making almost nothing. And so as part of that, I went through the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace. Then I became a coordinator or a teacher of that because it really blessed me to be able to help other people walk that path and try to get out of debt, change your financial future. And so in the process of doing that, I learned that as lawyers, we were missing a lot of things, or there were at least a lot of opportunity to help our clients and to help get better results for them in the litigation itself, but also to set them up for a better future, the clients. And so I began focusing on that niche in my practice. That kind of snowballed, and I finally had some folks say, why don't you switch gears and just do this? And I didn't think I could, but I've made it work.
Yeah. So you started out teaching Dave Ramsey classes at church. I assume that was not a for-profit venture.
No, ma'am. No.
Yeah.
And the typical person who's going through the Dave Ramsey classes, it's a get out of debt. It's not a, how do I manage my millions of dollars? It's how do I get out of debt? And so I taught those classes for a couple of years because I'd been living them, right?
Yeah.
Trying to get out of debt.
How did you get to Dave Ramsey?
So years ago, there weren't many folks on the radio or doing podcasts or things like that. But Dave Ramsey had a pretty good outreach to church programs. And so I bought what was a bestseller at the time. Dave Ramsey's book was called Financial Peace.
Yep.
And I read that book and just soaked it up, loved it. And I read it again and I read it again. And then maybe about 2 years later, he started doing nationwide church events where you would have church classes for ministry just at your own church. And so I took that. I think I went to Dallas to take it, and I was living in Cleveland. And then I went to an event, a one-day event by Dave Ramsey, and saw that, and it was the same process. And then I became a teacher at my church in Cleveland.
Yeah. So I would imagine teaching at your church, teaching the Dave Ramsey principles at your church, you were able to really help people, and probably even able to help some of your clients who were getting a divorce and finding themselves in real financial trouble.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had a general practice, so I had clients that were, had lost a parent, lost a spouse. I was doing some wills and trusts and things, but I also had the divorce cases. I had some criminal work. So my people were all my clients were struggling financially, both to pay their lawyer, to pay their probation fees, or to do their child support. And so that just became a part of my practice to help them go through those things.
It sounds to me like you almost found your mission. Like, it sounds to me like you had your job as a lawyer, and then through Dave Ramsey's program, you found your life's mission.
So now this is something I didn't think I'd tell you today, but so there's a verse in the Bible that says, work every day as if you're working for the Lord. And there were days in my legal practice that I struggled with that. but I don't struggle with that anymore.
Yeah. We were talking about this in my last episode that, at the age of 50, I kind of had this time, and I think this is an age of 50 thing, where, forgive me for being presumptuous, Guy, but I think you might be kind of at the age of 50 thing with me.
I remember it some years ago.
But when you turn 50, you kind of have this existential thing of like, wait, what has my life meant?
Yep.
And I have, for maybe several years, kind of had this, contemplation of, what is it that I'm contributing to the world as a divorce lawyer,
Sure.
or as a lawyer in general,
Sure.
And that's part of my mission, where I've come to over the last several years of working with women lawyers and working with divorced women after divorce, not as a lawyer, but as helping women, empowering women gain independence, and find their way to being more, to leveling up. So it sounds to me like, I don't know that you were 50 when you went through that, but it sounds like you were maybe kind of going through that same thing of like, as a lawyer, is this the highest and best use of me?
Yeah.
For God.
Yeah. And I felt that way. I by the time I learned that second set of skills, right, the financial skills, I made the AMJR in tax class. I made the highest grade in my school in tax class and never used it, right? I'm not a numbers guy. I hated math. But I found that ability to combine those two, and it's worked out real well. But it allows me, first off, it allowed me going into it, I thought I'm going to help people. I thought I was going to help the lawyers. Right, I thought my practice.
Lawyers need a lot of help with finances. We know they don't teach us that in law school, and we don't learn how to run businesses.
And so I thought that was going to be really the mission, right, when I started it, was that I was going to help lawyers help their clients. And I do that. I thought I would help more the lawyers on the lawyer side, but really the beauty of it has been helping the clients for the 20, 30 years beyond the divorce. That's been amazing.
Yeah, and that's really turned out to be your mission.
It is.
You do help the lawyers. You do come in to the cases as the divorce is progressing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Stumbling over my words this morning. You do come into the case as the divorce is progressing and help the lawyers see things from a different point of view.
Right.
Help the clients see things from a point of view that maybe they're uneducated to see. But then you stay with the client as they go forward after the divorce and help them manage their money.
Right.
And especially for women after the divorce who have maybe never managed money before in their lives.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get non-management parties from both sides, men and women, that usually in most marriages, one party is managing the money. And so typically I'm asked to come in and help the non-management spouse to help figure out what they need to do going forward. But that's exactly right. I had an epiphany moment when I was 40. My financial advisor, who was a client in my law practice, I went to his open house at Christmas. And in my small community, I knew all these old ladies that were there, all the old Cleburne folks, the old town folks. And I went into this meeting, this open house of his, and I knew everybody there. And every one of them, like when they saw me at the grocery store, would, "Oh, hi, Guy," and they'd duck their head and they'd walk away. And the reason for that is I knew everything that had ever happened bad in their life. I knew when their kids or their grandkids had gone to jail. I may have been the one that put them there. I knew about the affairs in the community. I knew about the trouble in the community, the bankruptcies. And so those people were embarrassed to see me in a social setting, right? But I walked into this advisor's office, and all these same people were hugging on his neck and telling him about their kids and their vacations. And I was like, well, I want that. I care about these people. I've worked real hard to help them, but I don't have that. And so that moment was an aha moment about why is it that they
like him and they don't like you.
And it's because I know all the dirt, I know all the ugly, and they associated me with the pain of the past rather than the progress and the hope of the future.
I remember a client that I had that you came and helped. And I remember a very, very poignant moment. You may not remember this, but I remember it because I remember we got out her checkbook. Do you remember this?
No.
She didn't know how to write a check. And you showed her how to write a check. I don't even remember her name at this point. It's been many years ago. But I distinctly remember that moment where you got out a pen and you showed her, like, this is what a check is, and this is how you write a check. And it was such a poignant moment for me because I was taught by my dad as a very young girl, like, how to handle a checkbook, how to pay for the bill at a restaurant, how to tip, a waiter, how to handle those things. I was taught that because my dad felt that it was important for me to be an independent woman. I never quite realized until I started representing women in divorces how many women just were so dependent and financially uneducated.
And yeah, it's been the biggest blessing of that part of it is to literally see the butterflies, bloom and grow. And it's been really great. I have so many success stories with my clients, but literally, like I have a client from Highland Park who, when she got a divorce several years ago, multimillionaire, but she had not been working for forever, and she was scared to death. And so literally we took her from, you're scared to death today, and here's a plan for your future, monthly, annual, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year goals. And she was scared to death and said, but I have no skills and I can't do anything. And she was going to sell T-shirts. And I said, I think there's more there for you, right?
Yeah.
And so she wound up working for a high-end store, retail place as a marketing executive, right? She just took a bold step and started applying for jobs. She was great at it.
Right.
And now she's a really well-known, high-producing realtor in Highland Park.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I love that you mentioned real estate because I have so many clients, both men and women, but about 65% of realtors are women. I have so many clients that when they have no apparent job skills, they need to, get a job to make an income, and they haven't worked outside the home, for many years. Real estate is one of the first things that I tell them because the barrier to entry is relatively low. Yeah. And, you can either get the education online and take the test, or if you need an in-person, it's about a 90-day to 6-month program.
Short.
Very short program. And there's one, here locally you can go to, and then, and then it's up to your own ingenuity and efforts, right? Yeah. To go make money. And so it's relatively straightforward, like get an education, go make money, bam, bam, pretty quick. Right. Now, not easy.
It's hard.
But at least it's straightforward.
Right.
It's not like it requires a 4-year degree, a 6-year degree, an 8-year degree, a lot of complication to get out there and have the opportunities. So real estate is definitely one of those things that I recommend to a lot of women and men that are in that position.
We see a lot of that.
So I read a statistic that we talked about off camera, that 41% of women with children that get divorced are in poverty. And that statistic doesn't take into account the struggle bus women. Like you're not in poverty, but you're still not making your ends meet. What is the advice that you can give to those women who are after the divorce, their household income has dropped dramatically because the breadwinner is gone for whatever reason, like they find themselves in this terrible position, and they're either in poverty or barely out of it, and they're trying to make it on their own? What do you tell women like that?
The first thing I always say in those situations is you've got to stop and take stock of where you are. Be honest and real about it. Don't make it worse than it is, but don't glamorize it either.
Yeah.
Take stock of where you really are. and you can't move forward until we know exactly where we are. So one of the things that is so difficult for people to do is to stop, be really honest about where they are. And then I always say surround yourself with friends and family and professionals who will build you up, not tear you down.
Absolutely.
But at the same time hold you accountable and be honest and let you know where you really are. They will give you a helping hand up if you need that. And that could be in a million different ways. And that's not necessarily money, right? That's encouragement, right? Encouragement can matter much more than the money.
On a daily basis.
And so taking stock of where they are.
Yeah.
And then I often see, especially immediately post-divorce, the degree says attorney and counselor at law. I spend a lot of my time doing counseling, but helping people figure out how to chart that path. The first thing is you can't get busy writing the next chapter of your life if you're busy rereading the last one. So you've
What
got
did I say? The rear view mirror is small and the front window is big.
Exactly. And so I tell people that's part of the taking stock. Yes, we're here. This has happened for whatever reason. Now we've got to figure out how we're moving forward. And like you said, you don't drive forward through your rear view mirror. So we've got to figure out how we're moving forward. And that's not always pleasant.
You don't drive forward through your rear view mirror.
Right?
There you go. The quote from Guy Rodgers.
Country witticism.
I love it.
Johnson
Country
County.
wisdom. There you go.
So I just tell people to take stock and let's figure our path forward. And it's going to be rough. I tell people when they've got to make a budget, and budget's a dirty word, and I know that.
I mean,
but I say we call it a spending plan at our office, not a budget.
yeah, I like that better.
We have so many dollars to spend. We got to have a plan. How are we going to spend them?
Yeah.
And whenever I was a kid, we grew up relatively poor, and there was a quote on the door of my house that said, like a cabinet, that said, we run out of money before the end of the month.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Now you got to figure out what you're going to do next.
Yeah. At the end of the month, is it green or is it red?
It's not
You
good
got
sometimes.
green M&Ms left or you got red ones?
Well, so, you're going to be wrong when you start your budget too. When you have that spending plan, it takes a year or 2 years of doing it and doing it wrong before you're going to build that muscle and have it where you're doing it right.
Right.
Don't beat yourself up when your budget is wrong. I thought I had enough money this month. I budgeted, and lo and behold, either we had a tragedy, something happened, we needed a repair on the car, or the kids needed a school thing. Okay, don't live in that rearview mirror. Now let's figure out about next month. Let's do a new budget. Let's figure out next month.
But don't you think that there's some societal expectations, especially on women, especially on single women, that affect that spending plan, that affect that,
Sure.
That green gap, so to speak, that, we have to have our nails done. We have to have the right outfit. We have to have, we have to cover up our grays. We have to have our lashes done. We have, we have all these societal expectations that maybe don't quite, fit
That's fair.
in the numbers game.
And I literally had that discussion with a client this morning before we did this podcast, and that was, if you're going to do those things, and I'm fine with you doing them, but they've got to be on the budget. You can't say I want to do those things and not account for
Right.
them. And if that means give and take in another column, so be it. Does that mean we make one more meal at home and tell the kids no McDonald's or whatever that is?
Right.
If you're going to do that, like everything we do, it's a give and take.
Well, and now we've got, this very, very current problem that women have that, the problem isn't current, but the solution seems to be current. The problem is that we're supposed to be skinny. The current solution is the modern medicine is Ozempic or whatever.
Right.
It seems to be a very, very good modern medical solution, but most insurance doesn't cover it.
Right.
And so, now women are having to pay out of pocket for this very good modern medical solution that might make us look better, more attractive to some other, man. We're going to jump right back into the
Please don't.
situation, but then you're paying out of pocket for something like that too from societal pressure.
I have that come up in my practice,
Yeah.
and that's $500 to $1,000 a month, and they're saying I need to do this, and I said, well, okay, but we
Gotta
have to
find
make
it somewhere
choices,
else.
right?
Yeah. So what is the one piece of advice that you got to pick one, just one piece of advice that you would give a woman after divorce, to help her achieve success financially going forward.
Be the author of your own story.
Oh, I love that.
Right? Don't let whatever happened to you in the past write your story. Don't let your neighbors, your churchgoers, your friends, your family, don't let them write your story. Put your feet down, bow up on your back, and write your own story. And that is so empowering. I tell that to so many of my clients, and they've never really stood on their own 2 feet, bowed up, put their head up, said, I'm strong, I can do it. And they can, and they should. And the result they get from it, forget about the money and the budget, just the self-worth and the empowerment that they can have for that is mind-boggling. It'll change them forever.
Yeah.
Stand up.
100%. And that's what I'm trying to do here with my Divorce to Dynamite group, because I think that some women have never maybe even known other women that are like that.
Sure.
And one of the epidemics in our American society is loneliness.
Yeah.
And for women after divorce, there's a difference between being alone, which is kind of that being at peace with yourself, versus being lonely, the emotion of the uncoupling, right?
Right.
And so what I'm trying to do is create this group where there are other women like you who are trying or who have gone through the process and are standing up for themselves.
Sure.
And who can be those girlfriends for you.
Yeah.
The statistics say that for especially women over 50, the chances of remarriage, the chances of finding another partner are so slim.
Mm-hmm.
And so the importance of having those girlfriends, I mean, it just can't be understated. So what I'm trying to do is create this community for women to find other women that are like them, that are similarly situated, and we can empower each other.
Sure. And I let me say this too. I'm living proof. You can get married late in life. And my wife is living proof. We were not looking, weren't planning. But sometimes other things are in store for you that you didn't plan.
Absolutely.
I tell my clients, don't ever say never, because sometimes it happens to you.
Right.
And then I also say, but before you do that, make sure that you've established who you are. I always say, don't get involved in another relationship within the first year. If you want to go have some dates, sow some oats, hang out with the girlfriends, that's different. That's not what I'm talking about. Before you get serious in a relationship, I've seen it ruin the financial plan of so many women, the new boyfriend.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Social Security rules say you can't claim off a former spouse if you get remarried.
That's a good point.
You've got to be very careful about those choices. Talk to a lawyer about a prenup. All of those things matter, because if we're going to say let's stand up and rely on ourselves, empower ourselves, you've got to have that squared away and know what your options are.
Yes.
Right? Give and take. Everything has a consequence.
And you mentioned your wife and your later in life marriage. Your wife is one of the best things that ever happened to you, having known you for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
She is a wonderful, wonderful person. And y'all are about to go to Italy again, and I'm
We
so
are.
excited about that. I wish I was going to stow away in your suitcase. So if
Someday.
people, yes, right. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you and have a little consultation with you about managing their money, how can they get in touch with you?
So we've got, we're on a Facebook page, Guy Rodgers Private Wealth Strategies. We have a Facebook, but just through the website, we've got a website, grpws.com, and we're pretty easy to find. Just look me up. You can find me on the State Bar website. They can ask you, they can ask, probably if they were divorced in North Texas, they can probably ask their lawyer, and I've worked with their lawyer.
grpws.com, Guy Rodgers Private Wealth Strategies. He is available for, I imagine you can do nationwide though too.
Pretty
right?
much. I can get a licensure in any state. I'm licensed in over 25 today.
Oh, half of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're out there and you need some consultation on wealth strategies and managing your retirement or your other financial assets, Guy is out there and available to help you with that. Just give him a holler, give him a shout, find him on Facebook or on his website, and he is available to help you with that and amazing at it. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, I loved it.
appreciate you so
It was so much
much.
fun.
All right. And thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you next time.